Well, while I have a little time and I'm feeling bold about sharing some private stories, something that I've held very dear and private, I'm going to put it out there now. Something's telling me it's time. There might be other people that have experienced things like this. So, again, if you don't know me, I was raised in and around Jehovah's Witnesses. I got baptized after I had a baby in my late 20s, and then stayed there for 8 or 9 years, and then realized I was in a cult and ended up leaving in 2016 with my daughter. So this whole searching for truth and spiritual, insight has been lifelong. I mean, I've even been reading, just searching since I can remember. I remember going out by myself when I was a small kid, maybe 3 or 4, bundling up, putting on my coat, and walking across the street. We had an apple orchard across the street from our house. And my mommies even have some pictures of me sitting over there by myself. But I remember thinking, how did I get here? How did I get put together? And then I thought about my dolls, like how their arms and legs came apart. And I even remember the clothes that I was wearing at the time when I was pondering these things. And I thought about them often, surprisingly, as a kid. And I even remember that now. So I think my spiritual journey has been a lifelong one. A ton of stuff in between, that's for sure. But anybody who knows me, I don't try to cover anything up. I'm no saint. My dirt has gotten aired my whole life. I've been in some stuff, let's just say that. So with all that being said, in around 2008, I'll just get into it. In 2008, I had studied with the Witnesses and gotten baptized. And while I was studying with the Witnesses, I didn't even realize that's what I was working towards, baptism. They're like, oh, you're going to get baptized. I'm like, oh, I am? Okay. I thought I was just taking in, knowledge or whatever. And ended up, I was a very studious witness, more studious than the Witnesses. Did the heck out of my homework, and I'm not even a homework person. I hate homework, but I was very interested in it. So on just a random day in 2008, and I got baptized in 2006 or 7. So in 2008, I'm sitting there on the couch by myself, just reading my Bible with it flopped open on the arm of the couch. Nothing in particular happening, nothing going on, just a quiet house, just reading. And immediately, I could sense maybe 10 feet away 3 beings. Couldn't see them, really couldn't hear them, but I could sense them strongly, that they were standing in the doorway, 2 on one side, 1 on the other, kind of talking amongst themselves. And in my heart, I'm like holding my Bible, and in my heart, I'm like, what is this? Like, I was frightened. And one of them says, he's humorously saying to another one, she's a doubting Thomas. And that really hurt me in the moment until I realized that it was humor. And I was like, why would he say that? I'm not a doubting Thomas. And they kind of chuckled amongst themselves over my disbelief at what I was experiencing right then. They were kind of getting a kick out of me being freaked out. But it was a very gentle, loving feeling that I was just enveloped with. And I was I wasn't terrified. If I saw something scary, I was just it was like a download. I'm like, what is happening? And he said, it's me. Touch my side. And I just started weeping. And in my mind, I had a million questions, and as I was firing those off in my mind, first of all, I said, why? And and so I looked down at my Bible, and it literally looks living, like nothing is hidden. Every single thing, I'm going back, I'm going forth. It has just an exponentially larger meaning of the things that I'm looking at. And it's like I'm looking behind a curtain, and I'm shocked at how deep the meaning is of what I'm seeing. And I'm frantic too, because I'm like, it's everywhere, every page, everywhere I turn. I'm like, nothing. It was like in my mind and my heart, nothing was hidden. It was like he showed me everything in an instant, and I understood everything in an instant. And then he showed me, I said, why me? Like, all I'm thinking is, like, I have a kid out of wedlock. I slept with a drug dealer. I am struggling to be a single mom and living on my own. I was really sick at that time. Like, I had a bunch of autoimmune stuff going on. I was like, why me? Why are you here conversing with me? When he said, it's me touching my side, I knew it was him. I knew it was him. I had encountered Jesus. Again, I couldn't see anything physically, but there were maybe like 2 angels with him or something, because they were also kind of consoling me. Like, it's okay. It's him. He said, touch my side. And he was the most loving, gentle, forgiving, just the endless forgiveness that I felt in that moment. Like I said, I mean, I'm trying to hold it together for this, but I sobbed for days after that, and just was reeling, trying to make sense of why I would get visited by Jesus and angels. So he showed me, it's hard to describe. And again, I had a bunch of questions. Let me rewind. He took me right to where Mary Magdalene, the story about Mary Magdalene, was in my Bible as I'm holding it. And he said, see, I showed her myself before I showed it to any of the men. And I was like, okay. Still, I'm like, what is this? I realized I just was blown away, And so I said, who else knows this? And he just was kind of like tickled by it. Like, a lot of people know it, and I get my sheep, one by one. And from that day on, I was like, Jesus can do his job. Like, he can do his job. And from that day on, I thought, oh, wow, this is what it means to be known by Jesus. I know Jesus. And I knew him. I just knew him so well that I know that he doesn't condemn the things that we condemn as humans. He has unending forgiveness. He sees that we're all under all of these yokes and poison and lies and everything. And he was showing me that he's very much alive. And the Bible was alive, which is why I do have faith in it. Now, do I think it's been tampered with? Absolutely. I mean, just for the fact that Jehovah's Witnesses have written their own Bible, multiple religions have written their own Bible, and they're influenced by evil. In my opinion, they're counterfeits. But when you follow Jesus, him alone, he is the way, he is the gate, he is the life. You can approach him directly. Yeah. So that is, is there anything else more worthwhile to live for on the earth? Do good. If you do the things that Jesus said, if you actually follow his law, that we'd live in an entirely different planet. In my life now, I don't see anything else more worthwhile than seeking, knocking, asking for him. Like, what is the harm? Again, I think religions are counterfeits, and I think that they are very divisive, and I don't think they're the answer, simply because the Bible says about religious leaders, they'll lead you to the door of the kingdom, but they won't let you in. So again, he's shown me many things that I look forward to. And he showed me this vision at this time that it was just an ecstatic, elated party, like of relief. I just could feel this big relief of everyone. And everyone was celebrating so much without any shame or You know, it was like that saying, dancing like nobody's watching. Everybody, it was like all of our hearts were filled, and it was like he showed me a glimpse of a celebration like that was coming. But he also showed me like a really quick flash of a really horrible time that I just sunk, and I was like, oh, like, I even now think, I hate to think, oh gosh, that is going to happen or has to happen or did happen. I don't know that flash, what that was, but he showed me of a future time where everyone was just celebrating elatedly. I can't even convey the level of happiness and security and freedom and just pure joy, you know, that I could look out and see and feel what the whole room was feeling, and everybody felt the same way. So, I mean, again, it was downloads of very hard things to explain that I even couldn't grasp onto before the moment was fleeting, you know, before the moment was gone. The whole thing probably lasted between 5 and 10 minutes, where I was just, and what about this, and what about this, and what about this, you know. I wish I would have said things or asked things differently. I was just in shock that something that has never happened to me before like this, getting visited and communicated with something that was invisible. And that, you know, trust me, I did a ton of research about doubting Thomas after that. It just goes perfectly, you know. We do want a sign. We're not going to believe it till we see him, but I've got to know. I said, bring me people like me, you know, and through my life, they've trickled through, you know, they have trickled in. I've met them, and we're all crazy. Like, none of us are the same, but we're all crazy. So I just have a lot more from that day on. I have really backed down my judging, being critical. And mind you, I was still a witness while this happened. And the funny thing is I told my elders, and they told me that I had a demon. They came over, they were like, this is demonic, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, they thought that they simply thought I had a demon. But I was like, they don't understand what just happened to me, you know? And basically I got the spiritual message is that they're not going to understand. And he took me to Daniel 8, and he showed me that scripture that said, and no one at all was understanding. Like, Daniel was frustrated. He was like, oh my gosh, what have I been revealed to? And he fell on his face, and no one at all was understanding. And that is exactly the feeling. And I was like, oh, okay, that's the feeling he had, you know, like no one was understanding. I told a couple of my very closest friends, and they were like, you know, because they're witnesses at the time. So what it has done, even while I was in the witnesses, is made me so much less critical, so much less judgmental. Mercy is the only word that we need to be worried about. You need to be merciful. I don't care who you think looks different from you, who is trans or gay or a different color or a different religion. You better be careful. You better be careful. You do not know everything that's behind anything. You have got to be merciful. That's all he wants. Just love your neighbor like you love yourself. That is it seems simple, but it's literally the hardest thing to do. But yeah, we've got to be more merciful to be unified. And I have this little thing that I do now and I've done it for a while. Don't get me wrong, I lose my cool plenty driving and stuff, but I always think to myself, however I'm treating somebody, they could be an angel. They could be an angel sitting here. How am I treating them? Am I, you know, talking trash about them, or am I being mean to them? Or, you know, anybody could be an angel. The person that's in front of you cutting you off, you know, I always try to make that my, you know, baseline. Like, okay, wait a second. That could be an angel. Let me just back down and be merciful, you know. So, yeah, that single 5-10 minutes of my life changed my life completely. It really scrambled my faith in the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society, and I struggled with what I was looking at around me in that organization with cognitive dissonance for the next 8 years. And then once I was out, I was like, oh, you know, I had to go through this. I had to see it. I had to get on the very inside to see how corrupt things can be within organizations to be able for Jesus. I mean, Jesus could have delivered me anyway. It's twisted. You know, but it's almost like I had to go through that journey to understand the full meaning of it. And now I'm starting to see that meaning of it. Sorry, it's getting hot in here. Warmed up here. So anyway, right after this happened, right after I left the organization, you know, I felt like, even though I felt like I knew Jesus, I was still trying to unmarry the meshing of their concept of Jehovah and Jesus. And it was confusing in my mind. And I ruminated and I just agonized about what was going to happen to my family that were still being misled, you know, in the Watchtower. And I mean, I'm talking, I woke up and I agonized about it, and I thought about what's going to happen to them. Are they going to get in trouble? Are they going to be, you know, will they ever know Jesus is what I was thinking. Like, I realized that the gravity of it at that time, how the Watchtower had their claws in my family, half my family, you know, and even extending family, because I think some of my extended family believes it's true, but doesn't really practice it. So yes, I would say that organization has their claws in my family, and they've definitely been a wedge and a divide in it. Of course, you know, they'll say it's because they are, you know, families will be divided when you follow God or whatever. But no, actually, you'll actually have to leave people behind. When you follow Jesus, you will. I had to leave my religion. Jesus had to leave his religion. When he's actually your way, he's actually your path, just your narrow path. There's nobody else that's coming to save you. It's you and Jesus in the wilderness. Yeah, you're not going to have that cushion, that organization. It's where the rubber meets the road with your spirituality. Do you have faith in Jesus Christ? Without a religion, without anybody teaching you. He says he's a great teacher. He says, I'll be your teacher. I'm the teacher. You need no man to teach you. And I know that because I've been taught by him, because I know him. And I realize not everybody knows him, and I realize a lot of people do know him. Like, that's exciting for me. I'm like, yes, you know, a lot of people don't. But anyway, I was grieving about what would happen to my witness family, if I would ever see them again, all of that stuff. And again, this is a few years have gone by, and I get this vision from a tall aerial view looking down on like an old-timey rock sheep pen. Just in the shower washing my hair, and this comes into, and I'm sad. I'm like crying about my family, like what is going to happen to them. They're in the grips of this, and it's so strong. And he showed me a sheep pen, like a square sheep pen, and it was divided. It had dividers, but there was no way out of any of the pens. The sheep were all stuck in the pens, and the pasture was all out on the outside. And he said, I know my sheep, and I can rescue them no matter where they're at. And I got this peace and calm over me, because the sheep were trapped in these pens, and he's like, I can get them out. You rest. And I would never worried about my family again. Now, my grandma actually died. I never got to speak to her again, which is fine, because my beliefs now are that, you know, the righteous and the unrighteous will be resurrected. We are the rest of the dead. I think the first resurrection already happened at when Jesus came back at the destruction of Jerusalem. He had his kingdom here on earth for 1,000 years. Satan was let out sometime after that 1,000 years, and we have been ruled by Satan and war and Illuminati and all these terrible things that are poisoning us all over. That's my stance now. I think that we are in the little season. I think that I know that Jesus is making appearances to people. I would love to find those people. I would love accounts of that if you have any. Again, it's never happened again, and I've begged for it again. I long for it. I long for the feeling that I was shown in that little second. And when I asked him, I said, "What is this?" He showed me the scripture that said it's a token in advance of the things that are coming. And I'm like, okay. I mean, it's taken me almost a decade to process this. And share it with anybody. I've held it just so tightly in my heart. I'll never forget it. It's what I based my whole life on. And to me, I see nothing else more worthwhile. I will always be praying for guidance, insight. I will always be speculating, which I believe is definitely a key to freedom. Speculating is frowned on in general in this world. Asking, seeking, and knocking is speculation. You have to keep peeling back the layers. It's never ending. You can just keep learning. It's a buffet. You can eat as much as you want on it, walk away, come back. You can speculate. The minute somebody starts to get dogmatic, I'm like, I'm out. But all I can do is go off the experiences that I've had and, try to fellowship with other people who have similar experiences, or just curious, maybe not even other experiences, just listen to other people's journeys and where they are in their journey, because people might be further along than you. They might be further behind. We need to have some grace for that, some mercy for that too. After learning about the little season, and seeing those words, Jesus' words for myself again in the Bible, was like I got new glasses. Like, I'm a very newborn baby at this now again, and I'm reading things through a different lens. So I'm still trying to do my homework about everything. I've wondered if Christianity ended at the end of the 1,000 years, and these people that are just Jesus followers are the remnant. Like, I don't know. When you look up the meaning of the word remnant, it just means you're leftover from something that was in a container. You're what's left over. That container is no more. That church is no more. We're the remnant. We're just what's left over from that old container. And that's when the truth was here, supposedly, in his 1,000-year kingdom. So that container of his kingdom coming, we're just the leftovers from that trickling out. Now, I'm not saying there's just a handful. I think there's probably a lot of us, but just like the wheat and the weeds, the wheat was free. The weeds were in bundles. The wheat was going to be undetectable, and the weeds, there were going to be so many weeds, and the wheat would just be in there with it, being shoved around. So yes, I think we're going to be in a relative wilderness, if you will, not without a shepherd, because Jesus is the shepherd, in my opinion. And again, if you don't believe in Christianity or any of this, swipe on by, go look at your, whatever you're interested in. But this is where my heart is, and this is what I believe. And I can even get on board with, atheist jokes and stabs at religion, because, it's a joke. It's a deception. It is a joke. It's a mockery. And I understand why people are put out with it. I can't help it in my heart that I wholeheartedly 1,000% believe in Jesus Christ. I feel like I've seen him, you know. I haven't seen him, obviously, but I feel like I've gotten close enough to reach out, and he said, touch my side. Speechless. He's so down to earth. He's so nice. He's so real. And he's funny. He's got a good sense of humor. They were joking amongst themselves while they were comforting me. And I can't even describe, again, it's beyond words, but in my opinion, it's true. It's real. It happened. I'll never forget it. I think about it every single day of my life. So that's that. I've never shared that like that before. And I beg of you, if you have something similar, reach out to me. You can email me at theoriginalgreenring@gmail.com. I would love to hear if you have had any encounters with angels or Jesus. I'm so curious what he is doing right now in the world, you know, not being, you know, I know he's with us, with me or whatever, but like, I know he's busy. He's so busy right now doing stuff, and I wonder who he's visiting and what their experience is. And I think it can really encourage, you know, us to share these stories. And I think that's what this is all about, the endurance, you know, our endurance through everything that we're all experiencing hardships right now. Wouldn't it be so nice to find other people that are having similar spiritual experiences as us, you know, just so heart healing. So anyway, if you like the name Hello Fellows, if you think I should make a new channel or if you think I should stay on this channel, let me know if you're interested in these topics anymore at all. I know this is mostly an XJW community. You can comment what everybody else is doing in their spiritual life. If you've been looking, if you've settled into a church, if you've settled into something else, I'm completely open. Whatever your journey you're on, be on it, you know. So enjoy.